I'm Brian Nashma, and I feel compelled to pay homage to Dylan Thomas for all the work he puts in behind the scenes, and as well Curtis Evie, and I don't see Ariba here yet, but these guys really are making the Impact Venture Challenge happen, so I want to make sure that you all knew that, in case you did. And also to two of the organizing committee members, Professor Rindle and Professor Johnston are here as well, and they are working very intensely behind the scenes. So this isn't my show, this is really their show, and I'm just a member of that team and honored to be a member of that team. So thank you, Dylan. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Well, welcome to round two. Wow. We have spent a lot of time thinking about your concept overviews. For those of you who we put through a revised and resubmit cycle, it was for your edification and development. I hope you saw it as a developmental opportunity, and we were very pleased with what we got back. So there are 10 teams that have advanced to round two. 2 teams didn't make it to round two, and it's not that they had bad ideas as much as we just felt like maybe this process wasn't the best thing for them in terms of the way we're going to go about this. 4 teams were in a revise and resubmit situation, and I'm pleased to say that all 4 teams were invited to round two. So at this point, you're all equals. No one knows. You made it to round two, and that's all that counts. So don't worry about it. You're in round two now, and it's not, this isn't a cumulative, right? It's your grade is the sort of last thing that counts, right? Okay. We have some mentors in the audience, and our mentors are an incredibly important part of our program. And so I'm going to ask our mentors if they would be just kind enough to introduce themselves, just so the students kind of get the feel for the beginning of our mentorship program. So some are returning mentors up there. Yeah, I don't know where everyone's situated, so.
Paul Steinweg, son attended here last year, graduated Brad Steinweg, and I work currently for Apex Tool Group out of Baltimore, Maryland, as the Director of Marketing.
And I forgot who you mentored last year.
It was the, what they call themselves, the engineering team that did the electrical.
EMMS.
EMS, yes.
Oh, so they were second place.
In second place.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm Dan Alonso. I work for USA with a holding company for giant food stop and shop supermarkets.
Great.
Returning mentor last year, I worked with the Montu coffee
Awesome.
concept. So I currently volunteer with 10,000 Villages and lead up the alumni, Business Alumni Association. So got some connections there. I'd be happy to apply retail. What I do. I lead new business development in our stores now, so building store within the store concepts.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm Mike Schwartz. I'm a partner in a financial advisory firm in Lancaster, and I mentored the Surf and Serve team last year. They were awesome to work with. Yeah.
Oh, you
Got third.
finalist mentors here. That's awesome. I didn't know. I didn't realize all those connections. Great. Good stuff. Being an entrepreneur means sort of being ready for anything that might come your way. So the first thing that's going to come your way is I want you to pick a spokesperson for your team, and you have about 45 seconds in about 15 seconds, right, to give us a thumbnail of your business. What is your pitch? All right, and I don't know everybody on all teams, but I do know my friends in the back. So Josh Jake and Company, give us your elevator, 45 seconds.
You gotta stand up though. You gotta
Stand up,
You gotta
name of company, your name, and then your 45 seconds. And I'm going to time you. I got a gun, I'm going to time you.
Okay. All right, hello. We're a Shepherd company, and what our goal is to use education. We want to work with kids in developing countries typically, so selling backpacks as a product. Because that's a key symbol of education that go into helping these kids at a difficult situation. So backpacks is our tie to the education system.
Thank you, sir. Moses. Or whomever, I don't know.
My name is Moses, and we are at 5 Stars. Our program is mentoring, focusing on online mentoring. We'll be able to help individuals, especially for young kids, to be able to place with the mentors who will be able to help their career and to be able to create image of who they want to become 10, 20, 50 years to come.
Thank you, Moses. Yeah, good. Or whomever, you're reading in the middle of meeting, I can't interrupt that flow.
All right, we are No Water, and our goal is to focus on residential water waste. So we plan to create a sensor, water flow sensor, that will determine waste in your toilets and sinks and things like that. And then give you information based on that and inform you how to reduce water waste.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Katie.
Okay. Okay. We're FaithLink. We're a website application that is all about connecting churches and helping churches connect with their congregations and just facilitating those interactions to make it easier on the churches and to kind of foster the sense of community in one's community to allow churches to collaborate and serve their communities better. So.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, please say your name.
I'm Jeremy. Our company is Solace. We are a microfinancing company who is going into Liberia to help train and develop businesses there to help grow the economy.
It's nice to meet you after having read your document. So great. Awesome. Thank you. Hello.
I'm Katrina. I'm from the VWAS team, which stands for the Village Water Automation System. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a water purification system for a community and our communities in Mexico, and what we're trying to do is to expand that business and like grow it as well as make it a sustainable business.
Right. And you're part of the laboratory, am I
Yeah,
right in saying that?
yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Sarah Henry. I'm from Harrisburg, Harambe. We create jewelry that is made from beads that are made in Africa, and then we employ single mothers here to make the bracelets, and then any money we make is sent back to Africa to New Life Homes to support orphanages there.
Did you rehearse that before tonight?
I've had to explain it countless times, so I've got it down to 30 seconds.
That's great. Oh, that's great. That's a good illustration of a good picture. I'm sorry, Barry.
I'm Michael Pasty. We're Rob's Kebabs. We're a gourmet kebab company. We're aspiring to become a food truck. We are looking to enhance culture, inspire creativity, and employ refugees through our kebab business.
I was looking for some pita bread and lamb stew tonight. Okay. For a future event, right?
Yeah. All right. Tyler Hershey. We are Sapwood Air Fresheners. We'll provide high-end custom air fresheners, and our goal is to incorporate seeds into our air fresheners. So our impact would be then planting our air fresheners and planting trees.
Cool. Thank you, sir. I know P2P Share is not here. They have contacted me. Their pitch is the share economy. They want to be a portal for the share economy on college campuses. And so you know that drill the edge, you know the drill you have in your dorm that you use like once a year, maybe twice a year. But imagine you could rent that to other people on campus. That's their kind of idea. So it's pretty exciting. Nice to see the share economy represented, I think, in the competition. So welcome to round two. Great pitches. Good for you guys to get practice and just kind of telling your storyline. So tonight we're being videotaped as well. For those of you whose team members perhaps can't be here, you'll have the resource available at impactventurechallenge.com probably in a few days. The round two template is up on the resources tab underneath the website. Please use that template to drive your round two content submission. Okay? You're going to discover that that is due December 3rd. Okay? And just like we're coming out of a round one that had a revise and resubmit cycle, so it is with round two. And that's the beauty of the fall participation model, is that you're going to get kind of a second chance in a sense. Obviously, if we just don't see it advancing, we do reserve the right to say, gee, we're not sure it makes sense for you to do a revision, but I think we're pretty generous in our assessment as an organizing committee, and we see the developmental opportunity for you to do a resubmit, and so that'll be a good opportunity. I think the second drop is Jan 10, if I'm not mistaken for that, and that'll be, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me not get ahead of myself. Okay, common themes around one feedback. One is team size. 2 to 6 people, 2 to 5 people are kind of what we're targeting for you. If you don't have marketing or finance well represented on your team, I would strongly encourage you to recruit a marketing or finance person. They will be critical to rounding out your team. In one case, I think it might have been Edify Moses, but I'm not positive. We think that there might be some technology resource that if you're a mobile app, a web app, and you don't have computer science expertise on your team or access to it, then I think that's something you should really be thinking about. Okay, so that's that piece of it. Validation. I can tell you, as an organizing committee, the thing that probably means the most to me is that the further you go on in the competition and the more you demonstrate the viability of your idea, the market is interested in this, we are having the impact we thought we were going to have, then it makes it a lot easier to say, this looks like the kind of thing we want to launch and see happen. So validation is this idea of going from your concept to touching with the market and interacting with the impact sector and learning from those experiences to kind of make it more real to you and to us, right? So when we say validation, we really mean contact with the marketplace, okay? And learning and iterating back about yourself. The narrative is important. How you articulate and how you describe can be very convincing, or quite frankly, you can take 2.5 pages to say what could have been said in a paragraph, and you lose all the opportunity to make your point. So good prose are important in the process just because they leave an impression on the audience, on the reader, right? And poorly written prose sort of implies an 11th hour submission to me, both as a professor and as a member of the organizing committee. So I think the more thought through and planned out the prose, the better. Faith-informed. This is a faith-informed competition. What does that mean and how do we unpack it? Well, the way I like to think about it is, God has worked in each of our lives in a different way. For some, it's environmental stewardship, and they just feel like, God's given them this passion to steward the environment. To others, it's education and the plight of those in inner city school districts that aren't being well served, and they just feel this passion and conviction about how that God might use their talents and giftedness to minister and be alongside of them. For others, it might be serving those with disabilities and the plight of those with disabilities, and how do I be an arm alongside of those with disabilities. I think in every sector of the impact space, as a Christian, God does inform how we think about it. Now, we're not saying that, you should walk in the front of your business and there should be, all sorts of signs of who you are as a Christian or anything like that. I'm saying how you conduct your business, A, should be right before God, right? And B, that I believe that why you're doing what you're doing is somehow God-led. Right? And I think for every one of the 10 businesses now, I could probably articulate in about a minute where I think God might be leading you guys to do what you're doing. So I would argue every one of you shows signs of being a faith-informed business. Tell us that. Tell us from your story, how has God led you to be at this place? Right? It shouldn't be like we read the whole narrative and we have no idea how the Spirit of God has been informing your plan and directing your plan. Okay, now I'm not saying, prophetically speaking, you got up one night and, God, now maybe for some of you, God revealed himself that way. I think that's great. But for others of you, I think just it's how you lived your life. It's how your life's been informed by your circumstance. And so just tell us that. That's all. I don't want to make more of that, but I don't want to make light of it either, right? Because I think how this competition is different than a secular business planning competition is we're a Christian institution. And so we should be about how does our faith and our walk with God inform the things we do and why we do them. Okay? So I just wanted to make that point for sure. Follow content outline. We put the template up for a good reason, to provide regularity and structure so that we as an organizing committee don't have to scan all over the document to figure out where you define your impact market or where you define your marketing plan. So please follow that structure. I talked about clarity. We talked about viability. Okay, impact, real impact, real direct impact versus indirect impact. The notion here is that direct impact is that by doing the things I'm doing in an enterprise, I'm directly impacting the impact market I want to impact. Okay? As opposed to I'm generating profit. From that profit, I'm going to write a check to a 501c3 and empower them through my financing to then go have the impact. That's very important. I don't want to diminish the value of that, but I'm arguing for a moment that that's kind of indirect impact. We're trying to figure out a way for you to think about your business that directly uses your enterprise to impact the market that you want to impact. All right, we'll unpack that a little bit more. I think a lot of you have made good progress there. Profitability is critical, right? The entrepreneurial community says, and the impact community in particular says, without profitability, you don't have sustainability. Without sustainability, you don't have impact. Right? So at the end of the day, we've got to be profit driven so that we can actually have the impact we want to have. Right? So I think if you lead with impact and you minimize profit, that's really not kind of, I think, in the spirit of what the impact sector is about. Okay, so please kind of get clarity for yourselves around profit-driven and then impact-oriented. Okay, I think that's kind of a way to frame it. Pause. Questions or comments? I just wanted to make some synoptic remarks about kind of the things that we saw in the plans to just kind of give you some color commentary on maybe we wrote a paragraph and we weren't quite sure what we meant when we said this is trying to help that situation. Everybody okay? Great. Dylan, I hate to bother you, but could you give me some water?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I am going to power through some of this pretty quickly in the interest of time. Focus yourselves on the middle column here. That's where we are now. Think of round 2 as a 2A and a 2B. Round 2A is your formal submission of your plan, right? And we're going to go through a vetting process, right, all the way out till December, and then you'll see the revise and resubmit cycle. And then 2B, if you're invited to 2B, it's the pitch process, different than last year. Last year, the only time we saw people pitch live was the night of April 28th. And what we realized is the power of persuasion, right? Being an entrepreneur is about being convincing and being persuasive and being able to articulate around what it is you have passion about. So we have moved into round 2, the pitch process, right? Peter Greer will be here Feb 9 and again in March. I can't forget that I don't have the date is here. Actually, you don't need it. For you, it's Feb 9. Peter will do a night about how to do your pitch, right? How to craft your pitch and how to tell your story. So you're going to either make it through to round 2A to go to 2B to work on your pitch. And then after that, we're going to make final decisions by March 31st on who makes it to round 3. Okay? Everybody with me? All right, so that's kind of the model we're sort of following, and that's kind of where we are. So 2A is your plan, which we have a template for, and we're going to walk through with you tonight. 2B is your pitch, and that's all about the 6-minute video. What you're going to wind up doing is actually submitting a video clip to us via the iStart framework if you make it to 2B. Okay? And the idea is the power of persuasion and the importance of being able to kind of do your pitch in a way that kind of resonates with people and sort of hangs together. Okay? So your submission process is due December 3rd. I think by now you've all figured out that ImpactVentureChallenge.com is the portal for all things and all dates, even if I send the wrong dates out, sorry to my colleagues here, that's the source of all truth, is ImpactVentureChallenge.com. Don't listen to me if I contradict ImpactVentureChallenge.com, listen to ImpactVentureChallenge.com, okay? And then your submit will be, again, at the istart.org link that you all obviously were able to get to. So that's kind of the process. In a nutshell, this is what round 2 is about. Round 2 will have a cover page and some content there. Please create a table of contents. These should more or less be your section headings. I'm going to walk you through them. And the content, not the cover page, not counted. The content is 9 pages. You have 9 pages to tell us your story. And an Appendix A, or your financials, not to be included in your 9 pages. Your 9-page limit, I should say. Okay? And then I want to talk a little bit about judging criteria, your mentoring, and other important dates. And again, if I didn't say it enough, please use the round 2 template of resources to drive your round 2 content, because if we don't see a good match and synergy between them, we're going to kind of be confused about what you sort of left in or left out. The summary is obvious of what your table of contents should be, but one thing I would like every team to think about is be more creative about what you might name this business. If you're already settled on a name, great. But some of you call it the green team or whatever, like we got to get more creative, okay? A. B, I want you to start thinking about your logos, your colors, your what we would call your visual identity, okay? And so it's not too early to think about that. We didn't labor you that with your round 1 submission, but we actually believe that your persona, your vibe, if you will, what you want the market, how you want the market to perceive you, that starts to emanate from your logo and your colors and your fonts and just kind of how you're starting to project to the market. So we want you to do that as part of your round 2, and we, by the way, will provide feedback on that as well. Okay, so that's kind of important to us. By the way, these slides are up on in the resources tab. If you want to go there, you can find them. Some of you already have a URL. Thanks, Dylan. Some of you don't and maybe aren't going to make that investment. That's okay. It might be just easier to create a Google site or a Facebook page, both of which are free, just to, again, start to create what is that online and social media presence going to look like. For every one of you, especially for your generation, the millennials, we have to think about social media from the get-go. It is vitally important to every one of the 10 ventures that we've heard about. Okay? If for no other reason than marketing and promoting and communicating, I mean, that's the digital native world you guys have grown up in, but please don't leave that aside. Bring that with you and develop that. For some of you, it may actually be the competitive reason why we think you should advance to round 3, is you're showing us your social media savviness, right? And Dylan can give you I think a lot of testimony. He's taken a job as a social media person and just sort of understanding how business is thriving and really developing on social media. So my other angle, again, I want this to be developmental for you guys as students. And the more you get exposure to some of those ideas, I think the better off you're going to be as you leave Messiah, okay? And there will be 2 speakers coming on get my dates wrong, November 19th. Allison, sorry, don't come February 19th, come November 19th, right? We have 2 speakers. Ann Dieter Gallagher will come and talk for 45 minutes about marketing. She has her own marketing firm here locally. She was a judge from last year's competition, if some of you remember, and she's been gracious enough to come and give you guys all you need to know in 45 minutes to think about traditional and social media marketing. So that's part A of what November 19th will be, which will plug right into your plan. You'll have a marketing section in your plan. She's kind of the subject matter expert to cover that topic. And then Professor Kathleen Johnston will be coming, and perhaps, Chuck, are you going to share that mic with Kathleen?
Sure.
Okay, so the Professor Johnston, singular or plural, not sure yet, but they'll probably be tag teaming. And they'll do the back 45 minutes on November 19. They've got a really nice template that I think we've uploaded as well that guides you through all the financials that you need to be producing. I realize that very few of you have actually maybe taken an accounting course. And the beauty of coming into the IVC is we want to give you just enough training to appreciate what that looks like and have access to the expertise to help cultivate that in your mentoring and in the faculty members, okay? So that's what's in store for you on November 19 as well, and that will help flesh out some of your content, okay? Your exec summary. This might be the most important thing you write. It's the thing that when I say it opens the door. If I'm going to read one thing, it's that one page that I might say in the traditional venture capital world, they get thousands of these a year, and this is the page they spend about a minute and a half on, and they decide, am I even going to look at this? Right? Does this resonate with me? Does it show clarity? Does it show conviction? Does it show a sense of opportunity and why this is really something to be seriously considered? So please be clear that the exec summary is not a summary of the plan. It's not telling me, when you read the next 9 pages, here's where to find things. Think of it as the single page that if we dropped it here and we left the rest of the plan out the door, that page would hang together and would tell me at a high level everything I would need to know about your business. That's a great executive summary. Okay? So I often think of it as the last thing I write. And typically I don't look at any of my 9 pages when I write an exec summary. I'm like, okay, if I had to tell my story in 1 page, how would I tell it? Right? Because if you're not careful, you wind up just sort of copying and pasting paragraphs from pages 1 through 9, and that's not really the spirit of what an executive summary is. Okay? Everybody with me? So think about how you're going to write that and how you're going to articulate that, and I think that's kind of an important piece. Okay? These are some of the things you want to focus on. Identifying your impact in business markets. Who is your team? Why is your team going to be successful? Right? I met with an entrepreneurial group early this morning. A medical doctor got this new medical device, and he had me kind of very convinced just with his background that he had the credibility to talk about the product opportunity. He didn't do a great job convincing me there was a market opportunity, but he convinced me he was sort of the subject matter expert, kind of worthy to listen to about whether there was a viable idea. Okay, so your team should kind of communicate that sense. And then what evidence is there from the market research you've done that there's a real opportunity, both on the business side and the impact side, right? And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about this. Now, for some of you, there isn't a lot of time to get this market research done. So you've got to be very thoughtful about how can we use the finite amount of time we have to do meaningful market research, right? And that's where you might want to dialogue with some of the organizing committee members to think about that. In short, these are the things that you want to kind of summarize. And the one thing I'll leave with, you should talk about your projections over a 3-year period. What profitability level might you achieve and what revenue might look like. And in your exec summary, please tell us if your team were to win the $5,000, what would you likely do with it? Okay? Because at the end of the day, we as an organizing committee, we've got to be good stewards of this money. Now, I know you're doing this on your own time and of your own accord, and I don't think anybody's here to kind of have the $5,000 in their bank account when they leave Messiah. I know all of you are well-intentioned, so we respect that and we understand that. But just your thought process around what would you do with that $5,000? Because one of the things we might do is redirect your thought process there to even have greater impact for you on how you use that $5,000. Okay? So we'd like you to kind of give us a thought process around how would you use that money. Okay. So far, so good? Everybody with me? Okay. All right, now I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Your business and impact market analysis. I like to start off every section with this is why this is important. Okay? Sometimes we get so bogged down that we kind of forget what's the main point, you know? The main point of markets is they give you focus, right? You can go market, you cannot effectively market the whole world. You've really got to think about who are the target groups I want to reach with my product and my service, or that I want to have impact on, right? You've got to start and figure out, you know, think of it as a bullseye. What's the middle red circle look like? You have adjacent markets, right? They're the outer rings in the bullseye, but what's the central market I'm driving at? And then what adjacent markets might I also penetrate? Okay? This is important because to me, your articulation of what markets you focused on and the evidence for why is probably one of the most important things I'll see in your 9-pager. If I'm convinced you have clarity about your market and there's reason why that market is viable, you've kind of already won me, right? Now I'm worried about, okay, can you build a product or service that you told me there's an opportunity for? But if I leave that section and go, there isn't really an opportunity, then I'm not really even reading that carefully about, can you deliver on a thing that I don't think there's an opportunity for? Right? It just doesn't make sense. So you want those things to go together, okay? So remember, markets give us focus. That's why we establish markets, okay? Your target market is any group. I think of a target market as a group of like-minded customers, right? They tend to make the same herd decisions as a group. Okay? And in classic marketing terms, we have these things called market segment variables. They're the things that we use to define markets. You might use geographies. You might be sort of certain demographics, right? Or certain psychographics, right? Lifestyle, value decisions, or even sociographics, right? But we want you to kind of come to some clarity about who is your target market. Now, you don't need to pick one. It can be small in number, maybe not singular, but it shouldn't be 20. It should be some manageable number, again, that you can target. Okay? And I'll give you some examples of this in a moment. So, what you're going to do is you're going to say, here's our belief about a target market. Okay? We believe that this target market segments will behave in a certain way because of this reason. And you kind of started this in your round 1 submission, right? What we're asking you to do is kind of refine that. Okay, refine that. And so real example with a company I was working with in Lancaster. We believe owners of greenhouses in the northeastern and midwestern United States and Canada will invest in aeroponics growing systems because these systems will dramatically improve crop yield, quality, and profitability. So in one sentence, I've identified who's my target market, what is my value proposition to them, and why do I believe they're likely to respond favorably. It's hard to do well. I'm going to acknowledge this is not easy, right? But think about the clarity I have in that statement. We going to Florida with this opportunity? No. Why? I think the target market is Northeast. Now, if I get this overwhelming sense that Florida's responding, I'm not even targeting them with my outbound ad campaigns, I might need to rethink this. But I'm going to have a thesis, a hypothesis of where I think the opportunity is. That's what this is, a hypothesis. Right? And hopefully when you tell me about the market data you collected, it's going to validate that hypothesis. Everybody with me? Okay, so this is kind of a hypothesis-based approach to thinking about your business model and your business opportunity. Okay? So that's kind of what I mean by your target market and how to kind of frame that. Now, in a similar vein, we're going to frame your impact market, right? We're going to say we believe that some impact target market or communities, right, will experience certain income or impact outcomes because of some reason. Right, this is my arts type statement, and again, here's an example. real one from another organization I worked with. We believe at-risk youth in Harrisburg, that's my market, right, will experience greater levels of high school graduation and employment above the minimum wage. Right, that's how I'm going to kind of be driving and guiding my programs to deliver on that, so that upon graduation, upon graduation, because of why they're going to get that, because the responsibility, relationships, and skills they're developing in this after-school program we're creating. Okay, so that's my impact. Okay, and I'm being very clear about kind of what the parameters are around my impact thesis. So, now you got to figure out, how do I provide an evidence base that demonstrates that those markets and those propositions are real? Right? Not easy to do, but I'm going to give you at least a few ideas of how to think about these things. First off, start with secondary market research. Google is your friend, right? And think hard about how I might do really creative searching to identify external reports that have already been written that validate my opportunity. Okay? And then they become citable resources in your write-up, if you will. Okay? And I think for a good number of you, this may actually work fine. For some of you that are doing something very novel and maybe there isn't a body of knowledge and market research out there, you've got to think about, okay, I'm in the world of primary market research. How do I gather data to support my thesis? Right? So there are a number of ways that you could go about this. We happen to have Qualtrics as an online web survey tool that we can make available for free for you to use if you wanted to develop an online web survey to gather data. And that would be your form of primary market research, right? So that's one opportunity. You might do some focus groups and some surveys, right? I'm thinking of Faith Connect, Faith Link, Faith, what, give me the right name?
First one, Faith Night.
Right? So you guys might actually just say, we're going to go survey, we're going to do a Saturday morning breakfast with a bunch of churches down in suburban Maryland or wherever your hometown is from, and we're going to use that to gather a significant amount of data that speak directly to our value proposition, right? So for every one of you, I think there's real opportunities to do that. Now for some of you, Moses, for Edify, I could see you kind of going to downtown Harrisburg and some of the at-risk school districts and saying, hey, can we kind of think about how to get some data right around your value prop? So for some of you, it's easy to get direct contact. For others of you who I know have overseas ambitions, I'm thinking of the folks that want to do microfinance in Liberia, right? I don't know. I know you have a contact there, so perhaps through him or her, you can facilitate getting some primary market research done. Okay? But again, what we're asking you to do here is to provide an evidence base for the hypotheses you just articulated. Okay? Everybody with me? Because they're just hypotheses. I'm looking for data to validate or not, if you will, what the opportunity is. The library can be a great source of data. The U.S. Census data, circa 2010, I believe, is available online, right, for free. Yakub and Stephen know that from another project they're doing. That data is out there and available for you, okay? And I think the research librarian in the library would be very willing to work with you. We've got some serious market research databases in the library. Okay, I think it's an untapped resource. So anyway, that's market research and kind of how to do it. Now, for some of you, you might actually argue to initiate a Kickstarter campaign or to use Etsy or something else. Again, money talks, right? How many people are going to pre-buy your backpack or your scenting machine? I'm blanking on. But your device, right? So how can you use those platforms that are out there to kind of validate your opportunity? I think that speaks more loudly than data even, right? It's actually transactional.